And I'd like to first introduce Mr. Paul Blanch. He has 45 years of experience as in the nuclear power field, a Navy submarine reactor operator and instructor, has a BS in engineering, registered professional engineer, Westinghouse Engineer of the Year. He's participated in the design of Millstone and Connecticut nuclear plants. He was a 3 Mile Island expert witness, a Davis-Besse expert witness. He's testified before the U.S. Senate. I won't go into all the details of Paul's background, but it's an extensive background in the industry. So I think he's well versed in commenting on what we face today. So I'd like to invite Paul to come up here.
Thanks very much. I probably might be repeating what I said before, but I have to correct the previous. Time goes by fast. I'm now up to 50 years. I've got obviously a long history in nuclear power, and I'm not anti-nuke, and I don't think I've ever made a statement that portrays me as being anti-nuclear. Again, being on submarines, those reactors, I believe, were safe. When I came to the civilian world in 1972 and started working with the commercial reactors in Connecticut, there's a world of difference. And not only are they designed differently, but they're designed to make money, where the Navy plants were designed for safety, and money was secondary in the money that they spent. The problem I saw after a few years working in the nuclear industry was that the industry was not being properly regulated. In the late 80s, I identified a major nuclear safety issue, and I thought the Nuclear Regulatory Commission would shut down every nuclear power plant in the United States and possibly the world. And it was a major safety issue with a deficient component that could have been disastrous, only to find out that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is out there to protect the licensees, the owners, the operators of the nuclear power plants. When I became frustrated with that, I started getting publicity, New York Times, cover of Time magazine, and I was very, very fortunate to have Senator Lieberman behind me, and one of the few, quote, whistleblowers, a term I do not like, that survived. I don't know why. The stars had lined up. I had major issues. I had a lot of media coverage. I survived. I settled with Northeast Utilities because I was critical of the way they were operating. They gave me a big check, said never come back. And that was in 1993. I signed a contract, said I'd never come back. I worked to expose their crime and corruption, and we had a decent chairman of the NRC, Dr. Shirley Jackson, who's now president of RPI. She essentially shut down all the Millstone plants in Connecticut Yankee, and they hired me back as a consultant for a few months. It turned into 4 years, and then I went on as a consultant to Indian Point and identifying internal problems at Indian Point, Maine Yankee, Connecticut Yankee, and other nuclear power plants, and got to work with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to see how they operate. And they have one goal in mind, and it's not nuclear safety. It's the continuance of the nuclear industry. And I've had problems with the tritium leaks. We've had buried pipe problems at Indian Point, where safety systems, piping is corroded away, sort of like gas lines could corrode away. I worked, which wasn't mentioned, for 5 years for the Attorney General, who was FOMO at the time, opposing the relicensing of Indian Point. So I'm well versed with nuclear and with Indian Point, and I'm not opposed per se to the gas line. It's a bridge. I'm not in favor of it, but it is a bridge until we can get more renewables. So if it were just the pipeline, I wouldn't be standing here. But we've had some go-arounds. I've gone down to Washington, I've met with the commissioners, I've met with the inspector general. We have criminal action going on here where the licensee, Entergy, and I have documented this, criminal action that Entergy has made false statements about the safety of Indian Point. I have documented that, and the NRC's response is, we won't even investigate it. Go away, Mr. Blanch. Now, these are criminal, federal criminal actions by Entergy. Not only will they not prosecute or take it to justice, they won't even investigate it. That's how bad this agency is. So now I'm working, with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and involved with Department of Transportation and PHMSA, who have their own regulations. And I'm working with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, commonly referred to as FERC. And my concern is obviously the potential impact of a gas line malfunction and its impact on Indian Point. And I can tell you briefly that from my calculations using the NRC's own numbers for the flow rate of a gas line rupture, and I plug it into a simple equation, and I come up with a number that's different from the NRC. They come up with 1,100 feet, and I come up with 4,000 foot radius is impacted by a rupture of the gas line. I've again petitioned the NRC. I've pleaded with them for meetings. We have differences. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but we can't both be right. The distance, the blast radius can't be 1,100 feet and it can't be 4,000 feet at the same time. So I think Sandy Galiff, Sandy's right here, she has advocated for us for sit-down meetings. Let's have a sit-down meeting with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, with Entergy. Let's work out our differences. Absolute refusal, the best they would do, and it was 2 years ago, Sandy, we had that conference call. We had a conference call, video conference with the NRC on my petition and the technical issues and the blast radius and the probability and so on and so forth. And we got nothing resolved. They rejected outright my petition, and now I've gone to the Inspector General's office, and the Inspector General reports both to the President and also the Chairman of the Commission. They're political, they're influenced politically, but the Inspector General has opened up an investigation of the NRC's alleged corruption that I have brought forward and well documented through various petitions, communication, Freedom of Information Act requests. The bottom line is, right now, it's my belief that the probability of a gas line explosion or malfunction, and it's again looking at the NRC's calculation and my calculation and their assumptions and my assumptions, and also we have a gas line expert, Richard Kuberowitz, out in Seattle, Washington, that the probability is about 1,000 times greater than what the NRC is admitting to. Again, we have differences. They won't sit down. They basically write me a letter and say, go pound sand. That's a nice way of saying it. With the PHMSA, Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Agency, they have regulations also. And as I mentioned before in front of the church, they have regulations that say you must do a risk assessment as part of the approval process. They've certified, Spectra has certified, they are in compliance with all the federal requirements that are listed under 49 CFR 192. And under that is a risk assessment. And it also includes public awareness, informing the public what is the risk, informing the firefighters, the first responders. If you have a gas leak, this is what you do. I filed a FOIA with the PHMSA, which is a subdivision of the Department of Transportation, and I said, please let me have a copy of your risk assessment. Now, here we are, we're close by the pipe here, right? Yeah, okay. Anyway, they don't have a risk assessment. They will not do it. They say, we don't require it. They are violating the regulations, and so we have filed last night at midnight with Riverkeeper. We have filed with the courts, the district court, to stop this whole pipeline. That's our last opportunity to stop it, and I'm hoping that the court will agree to at least hear our arguments, and we got some good arguments. And I apologize for going over my time a little bit, but thank you very much.